Uh, okay, so we are officially recording. I think I say that at the start of every video, but I'm not great at Zoom, so I'm just gonna say that anyway. But I just want to give a big welcome to Rochelle. Rochelle, how are you doing
Thank you.
today?
Thank you. Doing well. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's a pleasure having you on here. I'm sorry you're on here at the same time, right? Like
Right.
it's a pleasure meeting you, but I hate that you're here at the same time, But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so let's hear about your story. Let's hear about your aplastic anemia journey. What happened? How did you get here?
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, today is exactly 1 year from when I was diagnosed and
Oh,
when I landed in the hospital. Um, so I I was diagnosed last year on this day with severe aplastic anemia. And when I arrived at the hospital, I basically was empty on all levels. And by the way, I'm 65. I was 64 years old when I was diagnosed. Um, and prior to, about 8 months before this, I've been an extremely active, healthy, uh, woman in their 60s. Um, so that was basically, the start of my journey. But I feel like my journey started maybe 8 months prior to that,
okay.
when I started having some symptoms that I knew weren't right. And I was going to all the doctors that, I ended up with, my primary, a cardiologist, an ear, nose, throat doctor. Um, and they ran all kinds of tests, and nobody really found anything because my blood wasn't showing the numbers yet.
Okay. So it was a
Um,
slow, not progression, regression with your counts and
yeah, it's interesting because I'd had I think two CBCs before I ended up in the hospital, and the last one was like 4 months prior to me being in the hospital, and some numbers were down, but not to the level. Even my hematologist now says they really, if I would have seen you 4 months ago and seen these numbers, I wouldn't have, thought that you had aplastic anemia or thought to do a bone marrow um, biopsy. So, yeah, but the symptoms that I started with, the biggest symptom was I had pulsatile tinnitus really bad.
what in the world is that?
Yeah, yeah, that's what most people
That went
say.
way over my head.
Well, what it is, tinnitus is, something that you're hearing in your ear. Most people have it with like a high buzzing sound or something like that. But what I had was I could hear my heartbeat loud and clear at all times of the day. And at night, it would get even worse. When I'd lay down, it was just where I couldn't sleep. I felt like I didn't sleep for 8 months, basically. So that was the biggest thing I started going to the doctor for. So they were doing brain scans and ultrasounds on my aortas and all the different things, and everything was great. And so yeah, then it started. So I just kind of was like, okay, nobody can figure this out. So I was actually waiting until I turned 65 and got on Medicare so that I could go to the UCSF pulsatile tinnitus clinic
Smart.
because they covered it. But the aplastic anemia happened before that. But there were all the symptoms. I was bruising really badly. The fatigue had set in, and then about the month before I ended up in the hospital, I used to be a marathon runner and I'm really extremely active. So I knew this was weird. I literally couldn't walk down the street without getting out of breath. I was just like so breathless. And then it got to the point where I couldn't get off the couch without feeling out of breath. So that was the big one. So we knew something was wrong. And I was basically since no doctor could find anything, I felt like I was just at the mercy of, well, one of these days I'm just going to pass out or something. And that's exactly what happened.
Oh, wow.
I I walked up the steps to my house, and luckily my husband was behind me, and I just started going out, and I was like, Gary, take me to emergency. And by the time we got to emergency, which luckily was only 10 minutes away, they rushed me right in and did everything that they do. And they came back after the blood test about probably 30 minutes later, and the doctor just said, we've got a problem. And they thought leukemia at first, but then they did the bone biopsy and bone marrow biopsy and did not see any blasts or anything like that. And so they really quickly, I had a wonderful hematologist who happened to be on duty that night. And she went and looked at the tests herself and said, there are no blasts. We do not believe this is leukemia, but we think it's aplastic anemia. And she said, you have a severe case. So they started right away with transfusions.
So, what were your thoughts whenever they said aplastic anemia? Have you heard that?
No,
Heard of the disease before?
no, we asked, what is that?
I hate the name aplastic
Me
anemia. It's
too.
not like tough, and not tough's not the right word, but it's not. It doesn't really convey how serious it is, right?
Exactly. Because when you tell people, they're like, oh, I've been anemic before too. And you're like,
It's not even that. It's something
I
else
know.
entirely. It's yeah, that's always bothered me, the name of it. I've always told people personally bone marrow failure. And that kind of
Yes.
that's what raises people's eyebrows. That's whenever they're like, "Oh, okay, it's not hey, take a B12 shot." Right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. So yeah, so we asked, what it was, and we were actually, since I had had a grandfather who had died of leukemia, we were kind of relieved to hear. I have to turn this. I live by a military base, so every day
That's
they play
okay.
this music. I was, really relieved that it wasn't leukemia until, I mean, I still am glad it's not leukemia, but we didn't know the seriousness of it at first. I was just like, oh, okay, I need some blood,
Right.
whatever. And I was, kind of in that mode of, oh, good, finally we know what's wrong with me,
Right.
and they can fix it, and I can go home and live my life.
Yeah. This is like a maybe a 1 week kind of thing. Let's just move on after this and we're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
Not at all.
Not at all. So that started the journey.
Okay, so you were a runner. By the way, your story is nearly identical to mine
Oh,
with my
wow.
symptoms because I'm a runner as well. I'm not as impressive as you. I don't run marathons. That's too
Oh,
it destroys my knees. But I would run about a half mile, and I thought I was gonna pass out, and I
yeah.
thought this isn't normal. Like I know I was a little out of shape at that point in time, but after a couple of weeks, I was like this isn't right here. So
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
like I was hearing my own story whenever you were sharing that.
Oh,
And
that's interesting. And actually, from the people I've talked to, and I thought this was really interesting, that it seems like a lot of people who get aplastic anemia were super active people. And I don't know if there's a link anywhere with that, but read more and more stories of
yeah,
people who were athletes or whatever. So I don't know, maybe someday we'll know if there's a link.
well, we might know, but the frustrating part of this disease being as rare as it is that there's not a whole lot of eyeballs on it, and the fact that there's two forms of treatment, with one of them being considered a cure, the transplant, they're not really focusing on this one, so they're not
Right.
super I wouldn't say they're not interested in learning why people are getting it, but they're if it was 1 out of every 10 people were getting it, then there'd be more eyeballs. But
Exactly.
one out of a couple of million, I think, is what it is
Yeah.
so we'll never know. But there might be a correlation, you never know.
Never know.
But
Maybe I wore myself out. I don't
you
know.
might have. I mean, marathons, that's impressive. Okay, so you were diagnosed on September 23rd, 2024. Do I have that date right?
That's correct.
So on that date, so what was the next thing that happened? Did you go into treatment, ATG immediately? Did they talk about transplant with you? What happened after diagnosis?
Okay. After diagnosis, I stayed in my local hospital for a week while I was getting transfusions and they were trying to stabilize me and get everything set up to to do ATG at Stanford. And my insurance at the time did not cover it. And, I don't know if everyone's case has been this, but for each day of ATG, it's $400,000. So we worked. So after being at the hospital for a week and I came home, I was on transfusions for the next 3 weeks until we ended up getting it approved by our insurance and everything. So then they were hoping that I could wait again. We were trying to wait for that 65 when Medicare kicked in, but the doctor said it was too risky because my ANC was so low. I had no immunity left. It was
Mhm.
just, and they didn't want to, put me through the treatments and, if it got any lower.
Of course.
So, about 3 weeks after being at my local hospital, I was at Stanford, admitted, got a new hematologist there, and a whole team of doctors, which were all fabulous and wonderful. I was in the hospital at Stanford for one day, and then the next day they started the ATG treatments, and I had the horse
The horse
ATG.
ATG. And can you
Mm-hmm.
remind me the date? Do you remember the date you started ATG?
Oh gosh, I feel like it was let's see, October 14th.
Okay. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, that
I
sounds
think it
about
was
right if
three
it's
weeks after. Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
you're about to get the ATG. What was your schedule for ATG? How many days were you in the hospital?
Yep. I was scheduled every day to get the ATG treatment, and it was 4 days of treatment being hooked up for 6 to 8 hours. And um, it was horrible.
Oh,
That's all
you
I can
didn't have a
say.
good experience with it.
No, I mean,
Oh no.
I was sick. I was terribly sick. I got hives that were bigger than the size of a quarter all over my body. Um, I was just so sick and nauseous and shaking. I just shook so bad. It was just pretty gnarly for the 4 days. And the last day was better. Kind of every day it gets better.
Right.
The first day's bad, and then as your body starts, when they first start you on it, they set up a tray with about 10 different shots just in case. And we were like, what are they doing? But it's in case you react the
The
first time they've got,
anaphylactic, you just
yep,
don't know.
right. They've got everything sitting there waiting for you to, in case you do react, which, gives you a safe feeling that, okay, they're on it.
Right,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So then I still to this day, I think they released me too soon because they released me one day after ATG. So I
Oh
was
wow.
literally only at Stanford for like 6 days.
Okay.
And I don't know the reasoning for letting me go, although I mean, I was pushing myself when I was in the hospital. They had this club, like the hematology walking club. And if you walked around your unit enough times, you got a shirt. And of course, I had to overdo it and walk like 4 times as much. So I think they just thought, oh, she's doing really good.
Right.
But when I was released, we stayed in town for a couple days in a hotel just to make sure that everything was okay. And I just got really sick and, you know,
So
it was
let if we can go back a little bit. So whenever you were reacting harshly to it, what did they do to help you feel better and to lessen the side effects of what you were going through?
There really wasn't much they could do except give me Benadryl. They did that, and they'd give me warm packs on my stomach when it hurt, just trying every little easy thing but it's a harsh drug. It's harsh going through it. And it's like you have to go through it to get the benefits of it. And I
Right.
knew that. So I was mentally super strong at that time saying, okay, I got to get through this. And I think what is the hard part is you use all of your mental strength to get through that you're not prepared for what's coming after it when you go home, because it gets worse sometimes. Well, for me it did for quite a while. So so yeah.
So you went through those, that time at Stanford, and then it got worse for you after that. Am I understanding
Yeah.
that correctly?
Yeah.
So what
Once I got
happened?
home, it was just, I was sent home with 10 different medications. And so, anything from, prednisone to things to keep you from getting sick, because I still had no immunity. So I was on antibiotics and prednisone and
Were you on
posaconazole
Promacta?
and yeah, yeah, well, not yet. The Promacta
Okay.
did not start until it got shipped to me, which it was about 3 weeks after.
Oh wow.
But I was on cyclosporin,
Okay. Did you
and
tolerate that well? Is there
no,
so none of you had just a rough time this whole time. The medications, the treatment was just no
yeah,
bueno for you, huh?
yeah. I
Oh
mean, the
man.
nice thing is that the medications were working on me, though. In fact,
Right.
I was a probably an early responder compared to
Wow.
some people, but the side effects of the ATG and the medications just wiped me out, and they wiped my liver out too. So they ended up having to change me off of cyclosporin at about 3 months and put me on tacrolimus,
Okay.
because my body couldn't handle the cyclosporin.
Did the tacrolimus eat up all the magnesium in your body by chance? Because that's what it did for me.
That's interesting. I don't even know if they're testing my magnesium.
Okay.
So
If
that's
I
something to
mean,
look into.
they likely are. I mean, they're a lot smarter than me. But I know that's what tacrolimus will do, where it'll cause it just eats up all your magnesium in your body. And so I was on an IV of magnesium for a while. So it doesn't
That
sound like you went through. It's nice that was one thing you didn't have to go through after you went through everything else already. You have
Yeah,
by far. I've heard so many ATG stories, probably at least 100 at this point. Yours is the worst experience I've heard. I'm so
really.
yes, without a doubt. Everybody seems to have an issue with like one or two drugs, or like the first or second day of ATG is really bad.
Okay.
Not, hey, and this sucked. Like everything sucked. Like
Yeah.
you are tough. I don't know how
I
you
I
got through
am
that.
tough. I do know that about myself. Yeah, I don't know. It's just for me, it's all been, it's like you're in training, I've got to do this to get here. I've got to do this to get there. And just yeah, so I've just been doing that the whole time, and it paid off. My numbers were good. There's been a lot. I mean, the side effects for me of medications have been the worst. That's just been, I've had, you name it, if it's listed as a side effect, I've had it. And so that's been the worst. But all of my numbers by about 7 months in, my white and red blood cells have never gotten into normal range, but I've always had low white blood cells my whole life. Um, and reds have never been that big either. But my everything went back into normal range. My platelets, my ANC, everything. But about 6 to 7 weeks ago, they stopped my Promacta. And
Okay.
ever since, it's going down, down, down.
Oh, okay.
So they don't, they're waiting to see. I'm almost at 100 now. I was like up to 17 or 1800, and they're just waiting to see if I stabilize. They wanted me to stabilize around 100, but I don't know if I will. And if I don't, I'm really not sure what they'll do. I don't know if they'll put me back on Promacta or what
I
will happen.
I mean, from when I went through it, I mean, Promacta just seemed to be like the best drug. Like that was the one that boosted the platelets and your hemoglobin. I don't know what is in that thing. I'm sure even they've explained it to me, and I have no
Yeah,
idea what they're saying, right?
yeah.
And so I do remember once they got me off that, it did go down a little bit, but then it kind of stabilized. I eventually relapsed, but relapse
Okay.
remission, I don't know what you would call it, but and then I eventually got a transplant. But yeah, Promacta, I know that it dips a little bit. And
Yeah.
also, your doctors will tell you they know what they're doing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we hope so.
of
Yeah. I
course.
think that's the interesting thing about it is that everybody's story is so different
Hmm.
that my doctors keep saying we have to follow the data, we have to follow the data, and I keep thinking, but everyone's so different. How do
Right.
you follow the same data on every person, but I do trust them. I mean, they're great. Um, but it's just so interesting because there's so much unknown about this.
Right.
And,
Absolutely.
just the fact that, as I was talking about, getting through ATG and when I was first diagnosed, thinking, okay, we're going to take care of this and then everything will be fine. That's the problem is I feel like this disease, you never know if you're fine. You never know if you're going to end up having to have that's the scary part for my age because being my age they don't like to do bone marrow transplants,
Right.
and so for me that would be absolutely last resort.
Right.
They'd try ATG again, they'd keep trying to do all of that, but bone marrow transplants at my age they don't like doing. They say it's risky, so
Now, I'm not a doctor, clearly. I want to make that very known, right? But the fact that you are a former or current marathon runner,
I'm
you're
not
prob
current, not
well, you've been a runner, right? Like
yeah.
you might be the healthiest 65-year-old on the planet right now. You don't look 65. I don't believe you whenever you tell me that. No, I'm not just saying that to be
Thank you.
nice. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, with everything that you've gone through, I think, the fact that you've been so healthy leading up to it, I think that just
Right.
that helps you out so much. I'm convinced that's why it's helped me out as well too. I'm not as
Yeah.
healthy as you. Like marathons, that's amazing that you're able to do that. But
Um, well, I think I actually mentioned that to my local hematologist and, told her the same thing. I said, because I'm also a vegan, so I watch my diet, I watch my protein grams every day. I mean, I'm really active on taking care of my health. And that's frustrating too, because you think, wow, tried to take such good care of myself, and then this happens. But I asked her that. I said, I feel like I'm a strong 65-year-old because I just wanted to go to the thing that fixed me. That was my initial reaction. Don't mess with all of this other stuff. Give me a bone marrow transplant so I can completely get over this,
right,
And she just said, but they just not recommended. So
of course, yeah. I
yeah,
I mean they push back for me with the transplant for the longest time. I mean it's like they're grateful for it, but they really do not want to do it if they can avoid it,
right, right.
and so you mentioned your local hematologist and you got your treatment at Stanford. So how far away is Stanford from where you live?
2 hours.
So 2 hours.
So
Has
it's not
that
that far.
okay? So you're able to go there back and forth pretty easily,
Yeah, and
just
that's
for
where I'm
things.
I'm scheduled to have another, it'll be my first bone marrow biopsy since I was initially. I'm scheduled to have that in January, and I'm really excited to see that,
Right, of
like
course.
um
Please tell me they put you to sleep for it.
they gave me fentanyl.
So did you feel anything at
I
all or
felt zero, nothing.
okay. As
And
long
then
as you don't feel anything.
no, and they were telling me at my local place if I did it here, they weren't going to put me out. And I said, then I'm not having it here.
No
I said,
way.
I'm going to Stanford. So,
It really depends on the location, but there's some people they don't, they'll put lidocaine, I think is what it's called, and that's it. And I'm like, I don't, no way. You got to give
no,
me something. I'm a wimp with that kind of stuff.
yeah, me
And
too.
that, I mean, they're digging into your bone. That hurts so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. And my
Like,
husband said he saw the thing and it's like a 1/4 inch drill bit or something that's just going in and taking a sample out. So no, I don't want to be conscious for that.
yeah, that part is the absolute worst. I'm thankful where I'm at Moffitt and Tampa that they knocked me out. They gave me propofol, and I'm
Great.
out. Wake up. Don't. It's like nothing ever happened. I don't want to hear
Love it.
anything. I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to hear the drills.
No, that would be the
That
worst.
would freak me out so
Yeah.
much. So,
Yeah.
so it's good that you're getting that biopsy done in January. How are your counts looking now, though? I know you said they
Everything,
dipped, but
yeah. Everything is pretty much in range, except my white and red. They're still just right under range, which is pretty normal for me. So I'm not too concerned about that. But my hemoglobin is in range at the lower end. My platelets are not in range. They are the ones that have dropped. Um, and my ANC keeps fluctuating, but last week it was in range. So that was
okay.
good. It had dipped, but now it went back up. So um, yeah.
So
So
you're not neutropenic right now. How long were you neutropenic after ATG? Do you remember that?
yeah, quite a while.
Okay.
I would say 5 months.
So
Five
being a
months.
vegan, I mean, my doctors told me you have to really be careful with fresh fruits and vegetables. Like you really have to clean them really well. How much of a struggle was that being neutropenic and being a vegan?
It was hard. We were, my husband's a great investigator, very smart man who everything I would eat, he'd look it up, he'd look up the things. He has charts on, what I was eating, what I wasn't eating, all these different things. And so he was really good about that. But I mean, we were frightened. We were frightened about anything at that point. I mean, I was frightened to get a hangnail at that point,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you just never knew if something was going to turn into an infection. And that was really hard. It was around the holidays, so I couldn't be around family. Um, it was really rough those
Of
first
course.
few months, and fatigue has continued to be the worst thing for me. I cannot get my energy levels back. So I
Okay.
don't know when that's going to happen. And I don't know if it's just a side effect of the tacrolimus or it's my body,
Sure.
So it's not like me to ever, I don't think I ever took a nap from the time I was 5 years old until, now that I
Mhm.
have this, it's like I have to nap. So,
So are you still able to remain active one way or the other?
yeah, I mean, I walk now and don't run, but I walk up to 4 to 5 miles on a long day, but that wipes me out.
Oh,
And that
sure.
used to just be normal. So I'm definitely not, I'm not back to myself whatsoever. I still get out of breath going uphill more than I used to, stuff like that. But I think beyond the physical, I think it's the mental health aspect that this did to me more than anything. It was just really hard for me to accept the fact that I couldn't do and be what I've always been and have to completely change the way I lived. Um, so
Yeah.
that's been really, really difficult. I mean, I couldn't even, I couldn't go into a public place really for the longest time. I was
Right.
at home for like 4 months without going out. And then when I did go out, I was bundled with masks and trying to stay away from people and, all of that. So,
I mean, I don't. I think I might make the argument that the health aspect of this is a lot more challenging than the physical part because, like you said, you're afraid of a hangnail and you're
Yeah,
going out in public and you don't know if somebody's going to sneeze on you and you're going to get sick and then boom, that's it. Right?
yeah,
Like it's and people look at you funny and everything and you don't necessarily look sick, and that's a really frustrating part with aplastic anemia. Like it's nice that you don't like feel sick,
yeah.
but it kind of stinks at the same time because it's almost like people don't believe you and they don't understand how serious it is.
Exactly. I that is something I one of the things I did faithfully while I was going through this was I journaled. And I sometimes it was just journaling about specifics that were happening that day with symptoms or whatever so that I could keep track of that. And but a lot of it was like sometimes just drawing pictures, sometimes was just ranting and raving about mental health issues that I was having during that time with the fact that you know one of the things that happens when you get sick as that happened to me right away is your family and friends, they're in shock, and as well as you are, and they don't know what to do any more than you know what to do. And luckily I do have the most amazing family and friends that were there to support me. But I got to the point where they were so hopeful of hearing good news. Like good news at that time might have been just not having my point go up 1 point, or having my
Yeah,
transfusion last a day longer than it lasts the last time. So I'm constantly telling them, people contacting me. And it got to the point where I didn't want to disappoint them and I didn't want to complain and I didn't want them to worry. But I still had all this going on, and I'd FaceTime them and they'd be like, "You look so good," and then it would be like, "Oh, thank you." But, you don't want to tell them all the other
of
stuff.
course.
And so it feels like a lonely journey, a lot of it. That because, like you said, people don't understand the disease. They don't understand how sick you really are because you don't look it. I did look pretty sick for a while because my liver, so I was very
Sure.
yellow
Oh
and
yeah.
that for a while. But in general, they think anemia is just something that's going to go away, and they keep saying, "So are you all better now?" And it's like, well, most likely this will be a challenge the rest of my life.
Right. Right, of
Something that
course.
it's my cross to bear. So
Of course. So
yeah,
you mentioned that you were journaling. What else did you do to try to help, with upstairs? I mean,
yeah, yeah. I two things. One, well, more than two really, but one is that I'm a painter, and so I painted. It was funny because my hands were so shaky, like the medicine was making my hands so shaky, and but I was doing these watercolors that were just like a mess. But it was like I had to just feel like I was accomplishing something,
of
and
course.
that's a big deal for me. So I wanted every day to feel like I made some stride, and then I would one of my biggest advices to people is move. It's like I know you don't feel it, and there were so many days I just did not feel like moving, but whatever I had to do to try to just move a little bit more than I did the day before,
Yeah.
and that, and then having long conversations with my children, that was a really good for me. I got really close with them, and my 94-year-old father, really close to him during that time. So just building on relationships was really important for me during that time, and to cling to really the love that people were sharing with me, and not always trying to do everything myself, kind
Right.
of like I've always tried to do. So
You really do. I mean, when you're diagnosed with something like this, something that's so rare and that most people have never heard of, and then you explain it to them and they're trying their best and that, they just swarm you with love and support. And that's just one of the most amazing feelings ever. I mean, I don't know about you, but I had so many people who were I don't even know if I would call them friends in my life. They were just acquaintances, people who I didn't know super well. And I mean, it was like they were my sibling. Like they dropped
Right.
everything. They wanted to just do everything they could to help you. And, just makes you so thankful to have those kind of people in your life.
Absolutely. You really find out who the helpers are, and it was, yeah, a lot of things like that were really good things to come out of it. And especially, just I think I've just grown as a person over this year from having to do a lot of work on myself and my
Good.
emotions and how I handle things. And, um, so that's positive that's come out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, another positive, I mean, you're sharing your story right now, which
Yeah,
is unbelievably difficult to do. I mean, it's very brave of you. It's very noble. I mean, you won't realize it until, a few days from now maybe, but you're really helping out a lot of people right now by, sharing what you're doing right now. So that's another thing with mental health, right? Is I mean, I always advocate for people like stay active, number one. I feel
yep,
like I'm talking to myself, talking to you about that because
yeah,
that's what I always tell people. But when you're helping other people too, I mean, it helps you and it helps them, right?
absolutely. Yeah,
And what you're going through where the transplant may not be an option, that's so frustrating because
yeah,
you feel like there's like I have the answer right here, can we just do it? And they're kind of pulling it back from you. And I mean, that's really difficult to go through that.
yeah. It is, especially when I really do think I could get through it. Like I just feel strong enough to where I could do this,
Of
So,
course. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think that's the other thing is I really live day to day now. I used to be such a planner. I really miss traveling because we used to travel a lot, but I don't feel comfortable getting on airplanes anymore and that
Of
sort of thing.
course.
So I don't know if that'll change, but now I just really don't plan. People talk about future and different things, and I'm like, I don't know, it's not like a sad thing, like I'm trying to be morbid. It's just I'm living in the moment and in
This is
today.
your reality. It's hard to plan for like even a month from now, right?
Yeah,
Like where you're like,
right.
I
Because
hope my
I don't
counts
know
are better. If they were better, then yeah,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you kind of begin, I mean, at least what I would do with my wife, we would just travel regionally. So we're like, let's go to
Yes.
Orlando for the day or go to Fort
Yes.
Myers somewhere, right? And I'm sure, I mean,
We do.
California, there's no shortage of beautiful places, right?
No, and we do that, or my son lives in Portland, so we will go there and spend time there, So we're getting out and I'm getting out, but just not the European travel that we used
Oh,
to love to
sure.
do. So
Absolutely. I mean, Yosemite, I don't think is very far from you. I
no,
mean,
it's 3.5 hours and we love it. It's one of our happy places on the planet.
my
So
my wife and I, we were there for our honeymoon back in May, and I mean, I'm already looking at houses in Oakhurst because we just want to go back there all the time.
I
It's
know
too
Oakhurst
expensive. It's
well.
way too expensive, but it's amazing. And
Yes, yes, I know that area very well. And one of the things I do think really helped me through is that I live a half a block from the ocean, or not a half a block, a half a mile from the ocean. And so even during this, we would go out to the paths where no people were, even in the beginning. And even when I couldn't walk very far, my husband would take me on drives so I could just feel the ocean air and just get out and see the world, because you need to do that, because
of
you
course,
get isolated into your little space and you need to get out, even if it's for a car ride, or something like that. Just you need to be good to yourself and you need to listen to yourself. And for the first time in your life, maybe be selfish a little bit with your self care. Um, because
you
a lot
have
of
to be.
us,
You have to be selfish.
you
There's
have
no
to.
like there's no choice. You don't want to be,
I
right?
know.
Like, but you have to be, because you could get seriously sick,
Yeah,
right? Like you really have to look out for yourself. And it's unfortunate that it's like that, but you're right. You have to get out there. You got to feel that ocean breeze. You got to walk around a little bit, even if it hurts, right? But
right.
if you're going to be cooped up in your house, I mean, look what
Yeah.
happened during COVID. Everybody got all depressed because everybody was inside, right? And
Exactly. We were saying, my husband and I, because he literally lived through this with me, step by step. He didn't even want to go to grocery stores. We'd have things delivered because he didn't want to catch something and bring it
right,
home, kind of thing. So we were saying how this was even worse than COVID, like the
right,
way we were stuck, like we couldn't get out and do anything. And so yeah, it was really crazy. It's been a really crazy journey, and it just feels, which seems so cliche to say, but it was very surreal. The whole experience
of
has,
course.
looking back on it, it's like this year is like, what planet have we lived on this year?
Oh yeah, life after aplastic anemia. You really don't realize how different it becomes, right?
Right.
Where, I mean, you're living by your CBC every time you go in, and you're just hoping that your
Yeah.
hemoglobin goes up. Just, you would love for it to go up a lot, but you're looking at realistic, like, let's get it up maybe zero point 0.3,
Yep.
excuse me, this time, and then your platelets, same thing. And you're, like I said, you're just living life CBC, one CBC at a time,
That's
right?
so funny and so true.
It's
Yeah.
it's just how it goes.
Yeah, no, I have friends and family who know exactly what days my blood tests are, and I get all the emails the next day. What was it? What was it? You know, and so people are going on the journey with me, and that's really sweet of people, and I love that. And other people are kind of like, what exactly is happening to you? So,
It's, though, it's good though, that because you're able to bring awareness to it, right? And so people have a deeper appreciation. Also, your medical jargon. I mean, anytime you go to a doctor now, you understand at least most of it, right?
oh yeah, like we've gotten a little bit. I feel like I could treat somebody with aplastic anemia at this point.
Yep, yep. You know what counts to look for, and
Yeah.
oh man. So right now, what's the next course for your treatment and your recovery?
Right now, they are hoping, if my platelets stabilize themselves, they're hoping if the bone marrow biopsy comes back good. And I learned something really interesting, and I'm probably going to say this completely wrong, but it's something like this. When my bone marrow was empty completely, and I thought it would go up to 100%, but I didn't realize. He said, no, we want yours because of your age. You want yours to be 35%, because for every year that you live,
You gotta
your
subtract
bone
it.
marrow goes
Yeah.
down. And that was just so crazy. If you want to know more about it, I would look it up. But it is crazy. So we're hoping my bone marrow is somewhere in the 30s,
Yeah.
which would be great for me.
I completely forgot about that. The cellularity level, whatever your age is, you
Yes.
just have to subtract it from 100%.
Yep.
That's something I haven't heard in years, because they told me that during ATG, which I got in 2019, and
Okay.
transplant a few years later. Yeah, that's you're exactly right. Your cellularity, it depends on what
Yeah.
your age is. So
That was so, yeah, you're born with 100%. And from there
mhm.
on, it just starts going down. So, which makes sense why we only live to usually, around my father's age, which is 94 right now. So,
Right. It's almost
that's,
like a battery in a way.
it is. It was
It's
so weird to
just
hear about that. Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's like, I mean, you
absolutely.
hear about these people who live to be, the 115 and whatever, and it's like they must have no bone marrow.
Yeah. How are they living right
I
now?
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, yeah, and then they're hoping that if that looks good, to start weaning me off of the tacrolimus, which they say is almost a year long process of weaning off of it.
Okay.
So they do it extremely slowly.
And when did you get on tacrolimus again?
I've been on tacrolimus for about, I guess, about 6 or 7 months. The other thing
Okay.
is that, and I didn't mention it, I'll just mention it really quickly. On the cyclosporin, and I was so sick on that, and my liver was so sick on that, I never got to therapeutic level on it. They couldn't get me to therapeutic level because it was killing my liver so badly. So my doctor almost thinks of those first several months on cyclosporin as being non-treated. So he wanted to keep me on these other medications for like the full year
Okay.
because I'm finally on tacrolimus at therapeutic level. So
Gotcha. Okay.
um,
That
so
makes
it's
sense.
yeah, it's just, for me, I think the rest of my life is going to be a watch and see. And unfortunately, I think anyone who gets it at my age, it's going to be a watch and see kind of you'll be dealing with it in one way or another, probably the rest of your life.
Oh, sure.
Not
Especially
that you
with
can't,
ATG.
yes. And it's not that you can't live a normal life. I basically live a pretty normal life right now. I work. I own an interior design business, so I'm not working every day. But I do go on install days and I do some work and stuff like that. So I'm doing that and I'm seeing my grandchildren and I'm doing all of that. So, that's good. I just have to rest more. I have to listen to my body more. Um, so,
Rest
yeah,
is the most important thing you can do too. I mean,
man, is
it's
it?
frustrating though. I get that napping all the time where
Oh,
you're like
I know.
you're getting mad that you're getting tired, right? Because you're like,
Yes,
I want to be up, like,
yes,
no. And
exactly.
yeah. I mean, I
So,
remember I was at the movies with my wife. We rented out the entire theater just because
okay.
we were afraid of like any germs, whatever. And
Yeah.
it was Back to the Future. It's our favorite movie. And I remember just kind of like dozing off. She's like, we paid a lot of money for this. What you need a and I'm like, oh, okay, okay. So I'm, hitting my she's yelling at me for slapping because no platelets. So, that's just how it goes though. That's
Yeah.
the reality of it. And I do think that you're handling this so gracefully. You've been through so much, and it's not fair, like, but I think you're doing a wonderful job personally.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so sorry your treatment was as rough as it was and all those medications.
Yeah.
That's really hard to hear. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah. I'm sorry that I didn't know that was unusual. I thought everyone went through that. So,
Well, like I said, like it was one or two things that they may have trouble with. Like it wasn't everything was a problem where
right.
it didn't matter what medication they were getting. And I'm sure all
Yeah.
that Benadryl, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you remember how terrible that taste was in your mouth because it goes directly
Horrible.
in your bloodstream.
Well, the first time they gave it to me, they shot it through my PICC line, and
Hmm.
I literally thought I was having a heart attack. Like I shot up and I was like, I couldn't breathe, kind of. And they were like, "What?" And I'm like, "I don't know what's happening." And they're like, "We just gave you Benadryl." And I'm like, "Don't ever do that again." And so from then on, they gave it to me orally and not through my PICC line.
Oh,
But
really? Okay.
yeah, so
I didn't have an issue like that, but whenever they gave me Benadryl, um, I got really like dazed and confused where I was getting really dizzy and then I like slammed my head back, thankfully on the bed, right?
yeah,
And they're
yeah.
like, let's do this a little more slowly next time. And every time they did it, I just made sure I was already laying down and the pick line, it was on this side. So,
Yeah,
didn't feel
yeah.
like I was having a heart attack. You really just got the worst of
My
it.
my body does not like medications. I have fought taking an aspirin my whole life, so I don't know if I just haven't like gotten my body used to drugs or something, which I suppose is a good thing. But when you need to have them, it'd be good if I had a little higher tolerance, but my
Oh,
liver
sure.
is the biggest thing. Promacta hurt my liver too. So that was one reason why they took me off of
Of
that.
course. Yeah, that is a major side effect from that one.
Yeah.
It's a miracle drug, but it can really hurt you in
Yeah.
in that area.
Yeah.
But so as we're beginning to wrap up here a little bit, I always ask this one last question. And I hope I'm not putting you on the spot with it, but what advice would you give to someone who is recently diagnosed with aplastic anemia? And maybe specifically for you, someone who is diagnosed at your age.
Yeah. There's so many things. But
We got plenty of time.
okay.
You can share all the things.
I think one is to um find a good care team, obviously. A care team that you trust. If you live somewhere that isn't by a good, or I shouldn't say good, but maybe a hospital that's used to taking care of plastic anemia patients, I would highly recommend it going somewhere to where you can find one. There are as far as staying there, I know it's expensive and it's hard to do, but there are families that can host you or whatever while you're going through it. And for me, I was only there 6 days, so you might not have to be there very long, but find a good care team and then trust them and listen to them and do what they tell you to do. And it hopefully you have a Gary in your life. That's my husband, because I could never have done this without him. But you need somebody there to help you administer your medication. I had so many when I came home, and I would have never been taking my medication the way I should be if it wasn't for my husband. He still gives me my meds every day, a year later. So get somebody who can help you, hopefully. And if you don't have a person who is local, call for some help with some agency or something, or get on the Aplastic Anemia site on Facebook, because honestly, that has been amazing for me. It's provided a community for me, especially somebody my age, to find. I have found people on there who are my age and have gone through it. And then I would say just, get ready for a journey. Just don't think it's going to be over tomorrow, because it's not, but just take it day by day. And you will have good days and you will have bad days. And take them as they come. Try to move every day. Um, find an outlet, whether it be journaling or painting or knitting or talking to people on the phone, whatever, but find that and just do a lot of praying.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on Gary a little bit because I know we didn't mention him really much at all. I don't think at all in this video until now, but I can vouch for him. She was talking about him a lot in all of our messages before this interview. So, Gary, you're the man. And
He
that's
is.
having an amazing support system like that and caregiver is it's vital. You got to find a way to, find that. And that Facebook group, I'll also vouch for that. Your Fight is My Fight, Aplastic Anemia. It's a private group. If you guys want to go on, you can ask any question that you want on there. And
Yeah.
there's so many people on there who have been diagnosed with aplastic anemia, people who've already fought it, caregivers. I mean, it is an amazing resource, and the moderators there are amazing. They're
Right.
very understanding, and
And
I
nobody says it's a stupid question too, because
no one.
sometimes you can ask. There can be tiny little things that you just don't know that come up, and you can ask it there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an amazing resource. And also the AAMDS Foundation, they're amazing as well.
And
They
they have walks that you can go to.
exactly.
Yeah.
And spreading awareness, right, for
Yeah.
our little known disease, right? And
Right.
and so, well, Rochelle, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
this.
Thank you.
I think you absolutely crushed this. And thank you for your time. You're wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much for having this platform for us to just share our stories and get the word out there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, take care, okay?
Okay. Thank you. Bye
No
bye.
problem.